everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tourpreneur. My name is Mitch Bach, and this episode is part of our new Impact series in which we highlight not only fantastic tour operators, but operators who have initiatives and projects and small initiatives, large ideas to make the world a better place. I'm calling it our Impact series, and today I am here with Kat Hogan of Mercat Tours. Kat, a huge welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I have to say, you are an operator in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I am the only member of Tourpreneur who is not Scottish. Are you okay talking to an American?
Very happy to, of course. You just have to come over and visit.
Well, I will say, not only have I visited, I probably walked past maybe you delivering a tour. I will say, though, if I did, I would not have understood what a Mercat was. Now, your name is Kat, but I had to Google what a Mercat was because all I knew was a meerkat, which I believe is like a rodent in Africa. So can you tell me, first of all, the name and a little bit about your tour company?
Well, first of all, you're not the first to mix us up with that little rodent and compare the meerkat. So, you are forgiven. Mercat's actually the Scots word for market. And the Mercat Cross is an octagonal stone monument in the heart of Edinburgh. And there is, in fact, a Mercat Cross in every borough that was granted trading rights across Scotland. So towns and villages, cities, small and large, had a Mercat Cross, named because it was the main marketplace of the town, as I say, the trading spot. But from our point of view, if you were a visitor to Edinburgh, say 300-400 years ago, then it would be to the Mercat Cross you would go to find yourself a caddy, not a golf caddy, but the original caddy, which was a guide, and a local who would meet you there, give you a warm welcome, take a few coins, and of course then lead you to wherever you wanted to go in the city, a bit like a taxi, and give you stories along the way. So that's why we're Mercat Tours, because we're recreating that tradition of the welcome at the Mercat Cross and the service of the welcome and the visit around the city, and of course we meet at the Mercat Cross. So that's where Mercat comes from.
I love that. That's beautiful. And how long has Mercat Tours been in existence?
We are almost 40. We did our first tour on the 1st of July, 1985.
Wow. Okay. That makes you over 40 years old, or almost, I guess. So I see when I visit your website that you have a quote on your homepage: "History is a damn good story. What it needs is damn good telling." Can you tell me a little bit about kind of the ethos of Mercat? And I love quotes like that because I love fantastic storytelling, but tell me about what makes a Mercat tour so good or interesting.
Well, you've absolutely gone to the heart of it. It's a brilliant question. Mercat actually started in a classroom in the 1970s when there was a history teacher in Edinburgh, in an Edinburgh high school, who was, the best description is a bit like, Robin Williams in History Boys. When he gets everybody up on the desks to make sure that they can see the world from a different view, a different perspective, that really kind of inspirational teacher. Well, that's what he was like. And what he would do, bearing in mind this was the 1970s and early 80s, he would take his class out of the classroom into the heart of Edinburgh, because being a World Heritage Site and everything Edinburgh to be, it was the best classroom it could possibly be. And his belief was, history is a damn good story. What it needs is a damn good telling. And that's what he literally did every day, teaching in the classroom. And it was when he was out taking his classes into Edinburgh that he suddenly realised that there was visitors jumping on the back of his class because he thought it was a tour. He was a tour guide. And he saw the possibility, the opportunity of doing basically what he loved and did by day, but for visitors to Edinburgh. And so with a number of partners, other fellow history teachers, he took that mantra of giving history a damn good telling and set up Mercat Tours from the 1st of July 1985. And he is my dad, Des Brogan. So, yeah, I know. So yeah, it's really simple. It's what you always loved. It's what you always did, and you just did it for a different audience. But really, fundamentally, that's where and what we still do today at the Mercat Cross is give history of advertising.
Well, this storytelling gene has been passed down a generation because that is classic phenomenal storytelling. You save something for the end, you make a reveal, and it delights the audience. It makes us gasp. That was fantastic. I love that. Unfortunately, this is not an episode focused on storytelling, but it should be because I could probably talk to you for the next couple of hours on how that is. Oh, it's the beating heart of any great tour company, a great experience. And it's the easiest way to add perceived value to your product. It's just deliver it in a fantastic way. But what I wanted to actually sort of look at with your company, and the reason I wanted to talk to you, was that you seem to have learned a few things over the last 40 years about treating your city right, about treating your employees right, and about understanding that you as a tour company exists in kind of an ecosystem that influences each other. And I love another thing that I found on your website, which is that you have a whole web page when we sort of learn about you, in which you, in your hero image, you say, the Mercat Deal, good for you and good for Edinburgh. I wondered if you could dial in a little bit to the way in which you think about what you're doing as a walking tour company in the sort of context of being in Edinburgh.
Well, the idea of the Mercat Deal is in some ways really simple. It's about looking after people. It's about looking after our team so that they then look after our visitors, who then look after Edinburgh. And it's Edinburgh where our residents, where our team live and work and thrive. So looking after Edinburgh, it looks after our team, which looks after our visitors. But so it's a virtuous circle. It's an interdependent relationship of those three together. And I suppose over the years, it's just been tweaked to become more clear. And actually, if I could even say that COVID almost gave us that gift of clarity, where at the beginning of 2022, we were recruiting, and through the fog and pain that that period was, there were some things that were just so crystal clear, and that's about looking after people, and looking and doing what we love doing. Which is giving history, damn good telling. So fundamentally, the Mercat Deal is as a company is looking after our team in a way that they feel valued, they feel respected, they've got a job they feel fulfilled by. They're every day they love doing it. They are feeling valued. They have progress. They have promotion. They have a real living wage. They have paid holidays. They have a holiday home they can use. It's about looking after them and making sure they feel as wanted as possible. And the deal is that they then treat our visitors the same way and give that warm welcome, and that they then feel valued and respected and have this amazing experience at the city. And that relationship, hopefully in turn, means that they've connected with Edinburgh, with Mercat, with our team, and will come back. And they will choose us in future. So the deal is all about looking after our team, to look after our visitors, to look after Edinburgh.
That's amazing and simple, really, right? It's a virtuous circle. You benefit your employees benefit the community, and the community is stronger and better, which attracts visitors, and it just goes on. Clearly, since 1985. What was and I do want to, in a minute, dial into the deal a little bit, but I wanted to start by just saying, what was the development of this ethos like over the course of your existence as a tour company? Was it something you did intentionally, or did it just sort of arise out of the way in which you've always done business?
Yes and no. I think it's fair to say when Mercat started, so going right back to 1985, it was run by history teachers who therefore had full-time jobs, and somehow managed to create and operate this walking tour company squeezed into the school holidays, which was obviously summer, October, kind of Christmas, New Year and Easter, which was supposed to be their holidays, of course. But they did it.
Right.
So in the early years, Mercat was very much a part, and bearing in mind this was the 1980s, it was very kind of seasonal, part-time. And that applied to the team as well, who were seasonal kind of freelancers. And over the years, it built up from the ones to twos to, at our peak, we had over 80 in our team pre-COVID. So the largest, not just in Edinburgh, but in Scotland, walking tour company. And it kind of through necessity. So we've always had this ethos. We're a family business. Dad started Mercat. I started working with Mercat over 20 years ago. And I've done pretty much every capacity and role in the business over the years. So we are a family business, and we think and operate with that value set of looking after each other like a family. But there comes a point where it needs to be more formal, and it needs to be really clear exactly where everybody is, and also security. And I'm sure many out there will, recognise when you've got friends and friends working with each other for a long time and building up from a small to a medium business, relationships can get tricky, especially when you're growing, because there's pressure and success, and the speed of that is different for everybody. So in some ways, the deal came from a need to just clarify exactly what the contracts were. And I don't mean contracts isn't a legal contract. I mean, as in the position and relationship we all have with each other, which is the deal. That's the deal. We look after you. You look after the visitors, and so that's kind of where the terminology came from. So it's evolved from absolutely the 1st of July 1985. And it's taken twists and turns on its way, but it's absolutely from the heart and soul of what Mercat's all about.
So let's get into the deal a little bit, because I'm really interested in the practicalities of how you take this very lovely thought. I mean, listen, it's a lovely thought. Let's all be a family. Let's support the community. But it's just a thought, and it's just a nice webpage, unless it has actual practical applications to the people in the community. So, and that's what this whole podcast series is supposed to be about. How are we practically making an impact and doing that for our guides as a company and for our community? So you've broken down the deal into sort of 5 buckets or 5 terms: security, fulfillment, opportunity, respect, and effective voice. And if you don't mind, I'd like to actually tackle each of those 5. Just talk about them.
Yeah.
First of all, security. It seems like you're talking about job security. You don't give your guides bodyguards, but the things you're talking about with security are about the security of knowing that I'm going to wake up and not be in a precarious position if I'm sick, if I can't take a tour, and I can pay my rent. So talk to me a little bit about the way in which you work with your guides to provide, and your employees to provide that sense of security.
Sure. Well, first of all, the 5 buckets, which is brilliant that you described them as buckets, and those 5 terms are actually the 5 principles of the Fair Work Agenda. Just so I don't take credit for having I arrived at those 5, because they underpin, as I say, we'll go through as the deal. Security it's about trust, and it's about stability. Where I think to have a happy life, you need to be stable and know that you, in our case, Mercat, your employer, trusts you and values you, and from that so you're paid the real living wage, which tells you that you're valued. You have a permanent contract, which is quite rare in our world. Maybe not so much now, but certainly 20, 30 years ago, and actually maybe COVID has taken us back a couple of years. For seasonal workers, for tour guides, freelancers, it absolutely works for some, but for others, you just need that permanence. You've maybe got responsibilities, you maybe got carer responsibilities, and we trust you and we want you to be part of the team. We don't do seasonal contracts, we don't do 0-hour contracts, because you're part of Mercat. That's the deal. We don't want you to disappear, unless you do, of course. But from the outset, the tone and relationship is set that this is the deal. We want to help you and grow together. So that, and fundamentally, without security, I don't think you have a happy life and a secure life. to build and grow and enjoy yourself out of work as much as in at work, which is kind of the point. And sharing, so we've got the profit share bonus, where 10% of our profits are shared across the team, according to the work that you did in the last year. So again, that shares the hard work that everyone has done for the year. It's shared back to everybody as a thank you, and giving, the security of time. Time is so precious, and giving a rota schedule 4 weeks in advance, 6 weeks in advance is our target, really, again, shows trust in our team. Planning ahead, that stability, they can trust us, and it allows them to plan their leisure time, their caring time, whatever it is they have outside, along with, obviously, when things do maybe, not go to plan, so you have sick pay and so on there, and that support and pension as well. So it's just a big picture of the person outside of work, and beyond the time that even they're at Mercat, and making sure they're as secure as they can be.
Well, it seems like what you actually described is what in America we call a real job, where you've had...
Okay.
It's what my parents asked me to get for a long, long time. Pension, sick pay, stability. Let me ask you this. I see two thoughts popping into the heads of a lot of our listeners. How do you deal with the precarious seasonality of walking tours? In other words, what are your guides doing as employees the rest of the time? And also, let's start with that. How do you make sure that you're using them all the time?
Okay, a couple of things. Firstly, we don't have employees. We've got a team, because I think language is really important. As storytellers, I'm sure you know that.
Yes,
so
sorry.
So that's the first thing. And in terms of, it's not so much using the team, it's making sure they feel their time is of value. So there's a couple of things that we do already, and one that we've got literally, hopefully, hot off the press very soon. So first of all, everyone's on a permanent contract. They have guaranteed minimum hours. What's about to be rolled out is living hours, which is a calculation whereby, depending on your rate of pay, so the real living wage is £11 an hour, you should be guaranteed an income of 16 hours a week in order, and that's called living hours. So it's not just having a living wage, it's living hours. So what we do is, those guaranteed hours are year round. They can and will earn more in summer, because as you say, that's our season, that's the reality of our world. Over winter, when the demand does drop, that's when we invest in training. So that's when you've got your CPD, that's when we've got annual reviews, that's when we've got, real-time investment into the team. We've got our team conference. So there's a lot of activity together to kind of bring the team together. So yeah, that's how we do it, and it's valuable time. So it's not, in inverted commas, using them. It's more about making sure they're doing something of value to them and progressing themselves, and obviously Mercat as well. So it's fulfilling work.
The second question I wanted to bring up was, what do you do with the sort of insane trend towards last minute bookings? Do you experience it? Do you work with especially OTAs, and what does sort of team fulfillment look like, just in general, in the summer times for you, with kind of this permanent structure, permanent contracts?
Oh, it's like sand between your toes, isn't it? That kind of the last minute work coming in, and COVID has definitely taken us back, a good couple of years in terms of that trend. We had it in 2022. Where we, for many reasons in the UK, didn't have necessarily the resource that we could have had or wanted to have to meet the demand. So early on, we did recruit in March, April 22, and I made the decision that we would work at capacity. So we would work according to the team that we have and deliver a quality experience for the team and for visitors. So we reduced the number of tours that we operated. Which, in addition to the fact that we reduced the capacity per tour, so we reduced our numbers per tour by 40%. So if I look at my 2019-22 occupancy is superb, but overall capacity down, but by choice. So in answer to your question, we draw a line, because at some point you just have to draw your line and say you're sold out. We do try to meet demand. We plan out, again, trying to get the rota, that 4-6 week out target. We don't always get it right. Sometimes it is later than that. And sometimes if we see some mad surge for a Tuesday in November, which does happen, then yeah, we will, see if there's anybody looking for extra work. But by and large, we try to, because therein lies madness, really. If you keep trying to chase and chase and chase, at some point you need to draw a line, because it causes strain and stress for the team, at some point you have to draw a line.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard as a business owner to look at money and just to say nope, but it's actually smarter when you consider the well-being of the team and yourself, and the madness, the hair loss, the stress that just comes from trying to deal with that unpredictability. Let me ask you, when you're hiring your team members, what are you looking for? What makes a great guide in your experience? And I get it, storytelling, of course, but I'm wondering what you're looking for, and because this is an investment. This is a big investment for you.
Absolutely, and we want it to be, and that's the deal. So this doesn't just apply to storytellers. It's absolutely everybody in our team. It's attitude. It is attitude. And we've had it where we've had some of the most compelling storytellers in the world in front of us, because but you just know they're not going to be a culture fit. They're just not going to have. You can just tell the attitude doesn't work, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it for them or for us. So it's a very grateful and best of luck, but not for us. So yeah, it comes down to attitude, because on the flip side of that, we've had some in our team who have applied for one role. A kind of administrative role. But then we've just seen that there's that something, that spark. And if, they've come in that admin role, but we've kind of watched and kept our eye and slowly nurtured, and there we find the storyteller. But that works right the way across the business. We see people, not jobs, So yeah, I think it's attitude. For any role, attitude is what we look for.
That kind of mobility makes you feel alive. I think about that in terms of even, I was a guide for a long, long time, and there were companies I worked for where I was told basically this is the tour and this is what you're expected to do. And you feel kind of straitjacketed into this sort of routinized experience, and you just don't feel alive. It sounds like you want your team members to feel alive and fulfilled. So the next category or bucket, as I accidentally said, but we're going to go with buckets now, is fulfillment, is giving a sense of, I don't know, wholeness to your humanity when you look at people. So can you talk to me a little bit about sort of that word and how you apply that to your team?
It goes back to trust. If we've taken somebody on in any role, then it's because we see that attitude and we trust them and we want them to be them without being really obvious about it. Obviously there's a job to be done, and we've got standards and expectations, as Mercat Tours, and our visitors have, standards and expectations. And most importantly, we want everyone to be themselves. That's what the Mercat Deal is about. We're, here to nurture and help you be more you, in whatever role that may be. And that builds trust and respect. And, we've not always got it right, by the way. There have been times where, myself included, we have tried to be more formulaic or more prescriptive in many roles. And as you say, it just shuts that creativity down, and that sense of trust and respect. So yeah, it kind of, everything comes from that, and they feel more fulfilled because you feel trusted, so you do more and you're more motivated. So you feel more secure because it just all kind of, again, back to that kind of virtuous circle.
I think sometimes there's a way of looking at your guides or at your team as both your best feature and also almost a threat. And I say the word threat because I've listened to sometimes operators talk about how they've watched their guides go and start competing companies, taking the tours, taking the scripts, and becoming a competitor. And I've talked to other operators who have said, well, they're terrified of their guides almost unionizing or gathering together with such a firm voice that they collectively bargain against the company, and they've experienced these things. And so I've heard from operators to say, I don't want our guides talking together too much because and so, I mean, it's funny, you know, we're in a big world with a lot of different tourism environments around that world. But I know for you, the bucket of being giving an effective voice to your team is really important. I'm wondering what your experience has been of empowering your guides to make sure that they have a voice, a say, participation, and yet not in a way that kind of threatens you as the business owner, as the managing director.
We've done it in a couple of ways over the years. We've had a kind of formal a consultative committee, for example, which was members of the team who kind of elected members of the team to come together as the Mercat Consultative Committee, and they could bring questions, observations, ruminations, whatever, and I would meet with them on a bi-monthly basis. And, you know, it was really open and it went backwards and forwards, and it could be anything, you know, it could be really small, you know, can we get better coffee, you know, to bigger policy issues. And to be honest, you know, it's kind of an attitude of, I suppose, leadership, and being available. And, you know, and I would far rather be sitting, talking and hearing what maybe I don't even want to hear particularly, or stuff I don't like. I'd rather still hear it, so I know what I'm dealing with, and then I can try and fix it and get around that. You know, if you're seeing monsters and the shadows and threats and so on, then again, therein lies madness and not much trust, or in yourself even. Quickly say, I've been there, you know, I really am saying this from I've got the scars. So yeah, giving them the opportunity to talk, to listen, to ask. And you know, there are times where questions will be a bit spiky, or a bit loaded. And I've found, actually, the rest of the team kind of regulate. If you know what I mean. So if there is something that gets really spiky, then the rest of the team kind of balance it out. And if there was a riot, and, you know, that's happened in the past over issues, then okay, we'll talk about it. We did deal with unions, actually, during COVID. Unfortunately, probably most people did, when we had to go through redundancies. And I have to say, it was an amazingly positive experience, surprisingly positive experience. From, I think, the team's point of view, but certainly from my point of view, it was very supportive and positive.
It's really that idea that you see the team as something to be controlled rather than empowered, and
Yes.
I like that it almost sounds like for you it solves itself because you've gone through a lot of work to create a culture, a sense of what you're about. How do you instill that type of culture, or the Mercat way, through your training? Do you have kind of a very sort of specific onboarding process? Do you have a way in which you sort of welcome people into the team, either as guides or admin members?
Culture is so precious, and it's like a cloud. You can't quite pin it down. You know when it's there, and you know when it's, you know, and it's healthy. Each of the managers is responsible for recruiting their team, and I trust them implicitly. And they then have a very hands-on training program, which is appropriate to the role. So going back to what we said at the start there about that securities in terms of, you know, HR and payroll and contracts and so on, were absolutely clear and efficient when it comes to, you know, that reassurance of they know they're dealing with professional operation. And then move on to the really human kind of culture of Mercat, which is their line manager. Very hands-on. We're all very visible. kind of, again, because of COVID, we all got front line, and very happily so, and still there. So it's not a kind of us them. And when, goes back to that attitude, if we've been, because we're very careful in our selection process, it's a long one, and it's quite cookie. We get, we play games, we do an induction day where we get folk in to play games, and kind of, it's brilliant fun. But it's very revealing, because you can see, even the shy ones, or you can see everyone beginning to gel. But equally, you can see if there's just not an attitude fit with somebody, then it's okay. That's fine. We're not for you. You're not for us. Let's just not take it further, because again, we've learned from experience that can have a really detrimental effect on others in the team.
How do you collect feedback from your guides? Do you have surveys? Do you have retreats? Do you meet together regularly? What does that structure look like?
So we've got the formal and the informal. On a formal note, we have a twice a year we have a full team meeting. So that is absolutely everybody across the team. So that's our frontline storytellers, our tour guides, our support team, our finance team, our sales, marketing, that's everybody. So we have that pre-season in February, that's a full day. And then we have our team conference again in November. So that kind of wash up for the year. And as part of either one of both of those, there will be guest speakers. So for example, we've done yoga in the past. We've had a nutritionist, Autism Scotland, presented Carers Scotland. So it's really interactive, both those sessions, and there's workshop kind of with group activities, so everyone's got a chance to listen, to chat, to contribute. So those are the two big formal ones in the year. In addition to that, we have ad hoc in-person meetings. So for example, back in September, August, we had one about the cost of living crisis, which of course is very hot at the time, and I really wanted to get everyone together to talk about it. And that was after doing an anonymous survey, which we do fairly regularly every month about a topic or another, and it's really familiar with the team, very trusted way that they'll share their voice and views, because it's, as I say, it's anonymous. And then depending on the nature of it, we will follow up with an in-person get together. So that can be 20, 30 of us in person. So we've got all those mechanisms. Obviously, everyone has a line manager they can go to, and I'm here at any point. Technically, I suppose everyone's line manager. So those are the formal routes. The informal routes, we've got Teams chat, we've got WhatsApp chat, we've got sticky notes on the, well, we don't actually now. Got rid of the sticky notes because they were not green enough. We now have painted in the kitchen in the tea room. We painted all the cupboards black, and we've got chalk. So those are our chalkboards. So there's loads of wee notes and stuff goes on, whether it's Halloween or Easter, and just nonsense goes up there. So it's a combination of the two, depending on, because it's all about what the communication is, isn't it? How formal or informal the mechanisms need to be, but it's regular and it's equal, whether someone's a 35-hour-a-week finance manager or a 10-hour-a-week support team. Everybody gets the same communication that is valid the same.
Wow, there's so much to dive into there, but I'm just going to leave it broad and say, things that I take away from what you're saying are, number one, make sure you have a variety of ways of connecting to your team, that it's not just, well, we do this one meeting a year, or we have this one WhatsApp channel or whatever, because different people come alive, I think, in different ways. And having formal is important because it does provide that structure for people that do like that feedback in those kind of routinized and predictable ways. And other people like to just know that they can approach their manager or whatever when they want. So it almost sounds like it's a way of making sure you're connecting with all the different varieties of just personalities and styles of being a human that you have in a team.
We have a quality assurance scheme, which we've run since about 12, 13 years now, where we have our own quality assessors who are recruited and run our assessment scheme, whereby every member of the team, a target is they have at least 2 assessment visits a year. And very much the aim of that is to celebrate success, to give feedback, according to Mercat's expectations, because there are mystery shoppers out there that, there's suppliers that could do that, but we're very careful in the people that we select to be the assessors, that they really know Mercat and what we're looking for. However, what we discovered, some members of the team felt they weren't getting enough feedback. So our storytellers, obviously, are key experience of our visitors, but our quality assessors do what we call a 360. So as part of the assessment, they potentially 5 points of contact. That could be the website or phone, email, WhatsApp contacts. That's a member of the support team. Member of the support team at the Mercat Cross when they're checking in. Then the storyteller. Then, if they, depending on the experience, there's another support team member in our Mercat cellar when they have a refreshment, and then another one as they leave the building. So 4 out of 5 of the team in that experience are actually support team, not the storyteller. And storytellers, can read TripAdvisor and Yelp and Google reviews and, see all the comments there. But the support team felt that they weren't getting enough, feedback. And which is absolutely fair, because they're an integral part of the whole experience. So for next year, what we're doing is we're refining the quality assurance process to make sure that we're celebrating success, we're sharing feedback, and as I say, identifying training needs as well. And that is going to be a more personalised report for every single member of the team. So everybody gets feedback from the visitor, and not just what's out there on TripAdvisor.
It's time consuming. It doesn't make logical sense if you look at it from, an efficiency standpoint. And yet it seems to me what you're saying is it makes all the difference in the world when it comes to how the team feels about your company, about what they're doing, about themselves.
Exactly.
So let's zoom out now. And I want to look at specifically an initiative that is more recent. It's younger, but it's part and parcel from my perspective with what you've always been doing at Mercat. And it's Our Stories, Your City initiative. I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about that.
It was born in 3 phases. And the first was over 10 years ago. And that was when we started a partnership with a local social enterprise who are just along the road, neighbours in Edinburgh, in the Grassmarket. And they are the Grassmarket Community Project. And they are a social enterprise that build a community for those who are vulnerable, excluded, kind of on the margins of society, where they have found themselves due to long-term unemployment or alcohol or drug abuse, or, just isolated. And physically, the Grassmarket Community Project brings them into the heart of Edinburgh and looks after them. So you can see why it kind of very much chimed with who and what we are. And initially, we went to them because as part of the social enterprise, they have a woodwork carpentry, and they train their volunteers up to get the craft of woodwork. And they actually sell the products. So we went there for initially to commission 9 tables that we were going to have on site as part of our kind of hospitality suite. And it kind of grew from there. We then started to hire their meeting space every month for our leadership team meetings. And then we used them for our team conference space, and then for our catering. So it just built and built. And as I say, it was a real values match. They look after people. And then skip forward to the kind of the second stage to how this came about, and that was 5 years ago when we had our team conference in 2017. And at that point, we had a complete revision of our why. You probably know, Simon Sinek and the idea of the golden circle, your how, your what, your why. So we did that as a team, and at the time there was just shy of 80 of us, and we just had to rethink or check of why we're here. And out of that, everybody was involved. It was a huge big workshop with a lot of volume. It was brilliant fun. And we came out and realised why we're here, why Mercat exists, is to make meaningful connections. Okay? With our visitors, with our city, with our locals, we make meaningful connections through storytelling. And at that point, I thought we do it every day on our tours. Our team do it over, whether it's over phone or email, a welcome at the Mercat Cross on our tours. However, there's just something in my head thinking that we can do more. There's more of a connection, a deeper connection with more people than just those that are here on our tours. So it was a kind of unfinished thought, I suppose. And then 2 years ago, in the height of the pandemic, whilst we were all isolated from our businesses, literally isolated from the chance to run our businesses, make choices about our businesses, isolated from our teams, what we love doing. We were really excluded from just choice, really, weren't we? And I'm obviously really good friends with the chief exec at the Grassmarket, and we kind of kept each other going on a leadership level and a friendship level right away through the pandemic. And I realised through that friendship and that connection with him that whatever I was feeling and Mercat was feeling in terms of exclusion during COVID was nowhere close to what the Grassmarket community members were feeling. And that is what they'd felt all their lives. And that is why the project exists. And it was then that that idea that had started 5 years before, that's when I realised this is where Mercat can help. And this is where our team have to help, because we'd all been, we couldn't operate, we couldn't tell a story, we couldn't do what we love doing. And our team were kind of, at a loss. So when we started to recover the business and started to recover doing what we do, which is making connections on tours with visitors with our city, thought we can help the Grassmarket members to reconnect with the city as well. They need it more than anybody. And for our team to know they were doing that skill that they love to share, that storytelling and love of storytelling that they love to share, but doing it for such an important audience who need it more than ever after such a horrible time we all shared during the pandemic, it was powerful for everybody. It was going to win for the Grassmarket, going to win for our team, it was going to win for the city, and the final bit, the jigsaw, was including visitors, so that they would make a connection with the city and our team and Grassmarket, and therefore hopefully a connection with the city forever, that they would then return and come back to. So that's where it all came from. It's like making those meaningful connections for everybody.
So what's funny is, at the essence, the core of this project is storytelling, but it's not storytelling in the way it sometimes gets used as kind of a buzzword and then you just talk. It's story as something really profound that connects humans, and it has qualities all of its own. It has healing qualities and bonding qualities when there's an element of vulnerability, when there's a real attempt to reach out and connect with the human and not just talk at them, and so it shows the therapeutic and the profound quality of storytelling, I guess.
Absolutely, you said it better than me. And if you've watched our video about the campaign, that is what we say: stories can heal and build. Because part of the reason that the members of GCP, the Grassmarket Community Project, are isolated and are excluded is a lack of confidence and a lack of knowledge of their city, or feeling comfortable and confident to go and see it and hear it and own it. And there's no reason for that other than they haven't been invited and they haven't felt welcome. And that's what our team give them, to relax and to feel welcome and to feel respected. So, it goes back to that respect and trust and value, really. And for our team who do it every day for visitors, but to do it for this really important audience where they can see the power of what they're doing. As I say, it's a win for everyone.
Tell me about the project on a practical level. Are you asking for donations? How are you interfacing kind of your tour guests from other countries around the world, yourself as an operator, and then the GCP community? Can you connect the dots for me on a practical level?
When a visitor purchases a tour with Mercat Tours, they will see, hear, read the story of the Grassmarket Community Project. And that compelling story of how they support those people excluded from society, from Edinburgh, from their stories, from that sense of identity. and hopefully will be compelled to then donate. In addition to having bought their own ticket for their tour, they will then have the option to donate an amount they wish to pay forward. In order that, as that donation pot builds up, we then draw down from that £100, which pays for 15 members of the Grassmarket Community Project to do a 3.5-hour tour with a Mercat storyteller, including either Edinburgh Castle or the Palace of Holyrood House or the National Museum of Scotland, or the National Trust properties in the Old Town and the New Town. And then as soon as that occurs, so obviously the donations build up, they're then drawn down, and that £100 literally covers the cost of operating. It's obviously not for profit. It covers the cost of operating that experience. And once that experience has occurred, we feed back immediately to those who have donated. They're called the Coothie folk, kind of Scots term for, somebody who's caring and thoughtful. And that's a community that is built up, almost 400 donors now. And we make sure that they hear and see direct from the GCP members what the experience was like for them. And we step out at this point because actually what's happened is the visitors and the GCP members have had the same experience. That's what's really important, that it's the equity of experience and the respect that is shown to the GCP members, where they have exactly the same 5-star experience as our visitors do. They have it, and that bond is shared through storytelling and through their experience of Edinburgh.
So are you partnering then with those heritage sites, those attractions in Edinburgh?
Absolutely, yeah. That was part of the project from the start. In addition to Grassmarket tours, the Edinburgh Castle, National Museum of Scotland, the Palace of Holyrood House, and the National Trust. Also, Ewan's Guide as well. Ewan's Guide is literally, it's like a TripAdvisor site for attractions, experiences, restaurants. Launched a number of years ago now. And it covers accessibility. So any form of accessibility is fed back through the kind of this TripAdvisor style site of reviews. And we've worked with them for many years on inclusion and they've helped us train our team. They've helped us understand how to be as inclusive as possible. So they were really involved as well to make sure that the experiences we're offering are as inclusive as possible for the GCP members. So they were part of the project from the start as well.
To make sure your exclusive experiences are very inclusive. Yes. What was the process? This is all fantastic. What was the process like of building this kind of coalition of partnerships? Was it time consuming? Were people very kind of open? What did it take to get this off the ground?
Oh, do you know what was really tricky? This is, behind the glamour, I suppose. It came about because there was a funding stream released by the Scottish Government, and it was called the Tourism Leadership Recovery Fund. And it had a really short lead time. I mean, it was, I think, 2 weeks, where you had to submit an application with your partners, with your budget and projection and so on. And bearing in mind, this was in the height of 2021, the summer of 2021, when we were all kind of catching our breath from a season we didn't know we were going to have and trying to recover from what we just had. And so it was really hard. And we didn't know we were going to get be awarded anything. And if so, how much? What was really crucial was right at the very start of the submission, I realised that we needed a project manager. That was to make sure that it was, because it was a very quick turnaround, it had to be delivered by the end of the financial year. So that was March 22. And the only way that could be done whilst all of us were recovering / delivering businesses out of COVID, to make sure this project got the time it needed and deserved, we got a project manager who ran it for 5 months from November when we realised we were successful through until March 2022 when it was launched. So yeah, it was tough, it was tricky, yeah, it wasn't ideal, but it kind of only became possible because that fund was available at that time because of that reason, if you know what I mean. So very grateful.
And it sounds like the deadline lit a fire and made it have to happen.
And and sometimes, yeah, you don't realise what's a gift. Yeah, it forced us to get it done, and it has, and it's been amazing. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I think the lesson there also is that, wherever you are in the world listening to this, there are these grants, these streams of money that suddenly become available through governments, through NGOs, through all sorts of different sources. And a lot of them sort of only go to the people who are aware of them. And being aware is half the battle. And then just getting that grant written or whatever application is necessary. But there's so much out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Completely agree. Yep.
My last question, and I really thank you for your time sharing the Mercat story. I just want to ask you what kind of it means for you as a tour operator to make an impact. What does the word mean to you?
Oh, I'll get emotional. To make people feel important, to make, whether it's your visitor or your team members, feel the most important person in the world, for who they are, whatever it is they bring to your business, to your culture, or to the group that you're leading as a guide, because they will bring something. And if you can do that, if I can do that, and make some people feel the most important person in the world, then yeah, that's the greatest impact.
Kat Brogan, I'm not going to say another word because that was beautifully said. And I just want to thank you for not only spending your time with me, but for everything that you've done for Edinburgh, and your father for getting this all off and running with a damn good story.
The damn good idea.